The music soared again. Without asking, he pulled her away from the rail, sweeping her around in an impromptu dance. Giving her a twirl under his arm, he drew a hand about her waist, and she readily came to him. She sighed as she nestled her face against his chin. "You've taken me by surprise, too, Agent Ariello. All the men I've worked with in the past treated me one of two ways. Either I was their personal secretary, fetching this or that, getting them coffee, or taking notes for them like I was taking dictation, or like I was some weak female who might accidentally get in their way. None of them were interested in what I had to say." "And yet you took this job." "More like I had no choice." He reared his head back slightly to look down at her. "What do you mean you had no choice?" "I work for a special branch of the government," she confessed. "CIA?" No, it's more like a domestic division. We deal primarily with crimes in the States." "So it's sort of like the FBI, but different." She tilted her head as she smiled. "Yeah, kind of like that." "Would I be out of line if I asked what this division is called?" He was given a raised eyebrow. "Can I trust you?" She almost purred. He opened his mouth to respond, when she softly chuckled and pressed her cheek to his, placing her lips against his earlobe. "It's referred to as the SIS, the Secret Intelligence Service. Shh, don't tell anyone. It's a secret." He knew she was teasing him. Yet, at the same time, it proved she trusted him. When she pulled away from his neck where her warm breath had titillated his jaw, he found himself staring into the dark depths of her eyes, and realized for the first time there were tiny gold flecks in the irises. Tiny gold flecks. Why did that bit of information float on the surface in his mind? They stood there, not moving, their arms still held in position, eyes locked on each other, neither of them saying anything, barely breathing, their faces so close, her lips shining in the light coming from the nearby ship's lamp. Rob finally understood the phrase he'd always considered to be trite and worn out. Time stood still. He had no idea if he bent his head toward her first, or if she lifted hers toward him. All he was aware of was the softness pressing against his lips, of the trace of sweetness from her drinks, of her warmth surrounding him as her arms went around his neck, of her pliant, firm body beneath his hands as he held her closer. He closed his eye, his mind going blank. All reasoning vanished as his senses focused on this perfect moment he never wanted to end, on this incredible, unexpected. Hands grabbed the back of his jacket and jerked him backwards. Rob reacted instinctively, whirling to reach for the person, when something hard landed on the side of his head. Pain left him numb as the world exploded in reds and whites. Somewhere in the distance he heard a scream. "Naya!" His fingers touched cloth, and he dug his nails into the fabric. There was a ripping sound. A fist plowed into his stomach, and he collapsed onto the deck as another fist nearly dislocated his jaw from the rest of his face. "Naya!" he gasped. He almost reached for the gun at his waist, but his vision was clouded. His head was pounding from the blow he'd suffered, and he feared accidentally hitting her, or for his attacker to wrest it from his grasp and use it on them. "Rob!" She shrieked again, and it seemed her cry gradually faded away. He had no idea what had happened to her until two pairs of hands latched onto his arms and jerked him to his feet. Something struck him at waist level, when he suddenly realized it was the railing. He knew what was about to happen seconds before he felt himself being lifted and heaved overboard. The last thing he heard before he hit the water was one antagonist's laughter and farewell. "Bon voyage. Let's see you survive that one."